All right, so we want to do 4.1, number 68, which says P is the number of students in a school district. Oops, I spelled students wrong. Students. N is the size of the tax base. And this is measured in households, which is a super weird thing. It's a very strange thing. And R is the average annual tax rate in dollars per household. Average annual tax rate, which is in dollars per household.
What's tax box?
What?
What's tax box?
Tax rate. Tax rate, obviously. Okay. We're supposed to find a formula for R, the total tax revenue in terms of N and R. Okay, don't overthink this one.
Just n times r.
Okay. So this is a function of both n and r, right? So I would write capital R, parentheses, big N, comma, small r. And that's the thing I'm doing to denote that this depends on those things, right? You guys see that?
Yeah.
And that would be capital N times little r. Awesome. Your book almost certainly doesn't do this thing. You guys see that? But I want you guys to think about everything in terms of functions, even if they're not of one variable. Right? So this is not something that you could feed into Calc 1 machinery once you have it, but it doesn't matter, similar machinery exists. All right, B, find a formula for A, the average revenue per student. So this is going to be A, which is going to be average revenue per student. Okay? And what's that going to be a function of?
R and P.
R, which R?
Big R. Uppercase.
Capital R and P, capital P, the number of students. So how do you get revenue per student?
R divided by P.
Take the revenue and divide it among the students, right? So capital R split among P, right? If we wanted that in terms of the other two variables, could we do that? Yeah. Yeah, so I might think about that as N R over P, right? What would change there? So instead of writing A of, yeah, I would want N, R, and capital. You guys see that? Okay. Suppose the tax base goes up for 2% and the tax rate goes up by 3%. Find formulas for the new tax base and new tax rate in terms of N and R. Okay. So, maybe let me do this. Okay, so they're saying that tax base by, wait, tax base is 2%. Increased tax rate is 3%. So how do you increase the, what's the tax base? Which variable is that?
N. Capital N.
Okay, that's capital N. And how do you make capital N go up by 2%?
1.0.
Good. Multiply by 1.02. Right? The base N goes up by 2%. How do you make the tax rate go up by 3%?
Lowercase r times 1.
You need to take lowercase r and multiply by
1.03.
1.03. Perfect. Awesome. You guys got this? Okay. So that was C. D. using your answer in part C, find a formula for the new revenue in terms of R. Right?
The new total revenue?
So what's your new total revenue?
One point zero two capital N,
1.02 capital N times 1.03 little r. And so all told out of this you get,
Would you foil it? Can you do that?
okay, you shouldn't need to FOIL, but you don't get 5%. Why don't you get 5%?
because they're
You get a
multiplying.
little bit more than
Good, you get a little bit more than 5 because the new households pay the new tax rate, right?
You get 6%, don't you?
more households.
You're not gonna, yeah, what do you get if you multiply this out?
1.0506.
1.0506 times n times r, right? And so their next question is, what did r increase by? So R, capital R, right, the revenue, went up by, what's your percentage increase here? 5.06%. Right, why is that not much more than 5%?
Because that's 100 with 100.
Yeah, because, right? Because there aren't that many new households, right? They only went up by 2%. And so even the new households' new tax rate, right, is not that much. You guys see that? Right, I already covered them at the old tax rate. Okay, so I got R went up by 5.06%. Then what else? See, over the time period in part C, the student population rises by 8%. What about the average income? Okay, so they're saying, all right, that was the revenue thing, right? Then my expenses went up by, so S, oops, not S, yes, S. No, P. We increased P by 8%, right?
So the big one would be that over UEP.
Good. So the new average, right, would be the new revenue divided by the new population, right? So what do you get for that? Part C. Oh, E. I don't know where E. I don't know where D went. So E would be new A, right? Is new R divided by new P is 1.0506 R, right? That's the old revenue divided by 1.08 P. And where's your new, so where's your multiplier for your per student spending?
0.972 bunch of sevens.
Okay, so this stuff here is 0.92, is give or take,
It's 972.
972. Okay, what the heck? We'll call it that. Which means what?
Their income went down.
Not income, that's weird.
Average
There.
revenue.
Yeah, the average revenue per student. In other words, the amount you can spend to educate a student went down, right? In spite of taxes. You guys see that? Taxes went up, the tax base increased too, but the population increased by enough to offset that, so we actually lost per student revenue. You guys see that? This is why this is why you'll hear two different sets of numbers presented in terms of education spending. You'll hear total dollar amounts that sound like really enormous, like we spent umpteen $billion on education last year. And then you'll hear things that are phrased as, this is what we're spending per student. You guys see that? Sometimes even the dollar amount can go way up, but if the population also goes way up, this per student amount can go down. And the per student amount is how the students get, right? That's how they get educated, is per student. You guys see that? Cool. So the answer to part E ultimately is a 2.8, approximately, 2.8% decrease. You guys see why it's a decrease?
Because it's that much less than one.
Yeah, because it's less than 1. Cool.
Because you need 2.8
Because
to get
97 plus 97.2 plus 2.8 is 1. You had me paranoid there for a second. I am notoriously bad about doing that in my head. Anything else? Questions on this?